The challenge from the stars. The massive ships appeared without warning, materializing above Earth's major cities in a display of technological prowess that immediately silenced any doubt about humanity's place in the cosmos. They hung in the sky like obsidian mountains, their surfaces rippling with an iridescent sheen that defied terrestrial physics. Admiral James Sullivan stood at the United Nations emergency session, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays, showing the vessels positioned across the globe. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. Beside him, Dr. Rayana Patel, Earth's leading geneticist, studied the preliminary scans with an intensity that matched the gravity of their situation. The Zaxarian Empire, announced the alien ambassador, Vorthak, his translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "We come with an offer that will revolutionize your species." His voice, perfectly translated through advanced technology, carried both authority and what seemed like genuine concern. The assembled world leaders listened as Vorthak explained their mission. The Zaxarians, he revealed, had spent millennia perfecting the art of genetic manipulation and cloning. They had saved countless civilizations from what they termed evolutionary stagnation by implementing their cloning protocols. "Your species faces countless threats," Vorthak continued, his elongated fingers gesturing to displays showing natural disasters, diseases, and potential cosmic catastrophes. "Our scans indicate your genetic code is primitive, vulnerable. We offer you perfection through our cloning program." Dr. Patel's hand tightened on her tablet. She had spent her career studying human genetic adaptability, and something about the Zaxarians' assertions didn't align with her research. "And if we decline?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. Vorthak's skin rippled with darker patterns. "No species has ever declined. The benefits are irrefutable." The pause in his statement hung heavy in the air. Over the next weeks, Earth's Scientific Defense Council formed under the joint leadership of Admiral Sullivan and Dr. Patel. Their mission: evaluate the Zaxarian proposal and protect humanity's interests. The Council established their headquarters in a repurposed research facility in Geneva, where scientists from every nation worked tirelessly to understand the implications of the alien technology. Dr. Patel's team made a startling discovery while analyzing the data provided by the Zaxarians. "Look at this," she pointed out to Admiral Sullivan, displaying complex genetic models. "Their cloning technology creates perfect copies, but it eliminates the natural variations that make our species adaptable." Sullivan leaned closer, his military training helping him focus on the strategic implications. "You're saying their help would actually make us weaker?" "Potentially," Rayana nodded. "Human DNA contains mechanisms for adaptation that are far more sophisticated than anyone realized. Our primitive genetic code might actually be our greatest strength." The revelation came just in time. The Zaxarians had begun setting up demonstration facilities in several cities, showcasing the benefits of their cloning technology. Thousands had already signed up for the initial trials, attracted by promises of perfect health and extended lifespans. The Council's first major confrontation with the Zaxarians occurred during a global broadcast. Dr. Patel presented evidence of human genetic superiority in adaptation, showcasing how natural selection had created resistance to diseases that still plagued clone-dependent species. Vorthak's response was immediate and hostile. "You cannot possibly understand the complexities of genetic engineering that we have mastered over millennia," he declared, his skin now pulsing with angry red patterns. "Your resistance to progress will doom your species." But humanity had faced extinction-level threats before, and each time had emerged stronger. Admiral Sullivan coordinated with military forces worldwide to secure the demonstration facilities, while Dr. Patel's team worked to document cases of natural human resilience that defied the Zaxarians' assumptions. The tension reached a breaking point when the Zaxarians attempted to begin mass cloning operations without Earth's consent. Their ships positioned themselves over major population centers, preparing to implement their program by force if necessary. In response, Humanity showed why they had survived countless catastrophes. Cities organized evacuations with unprecedented efficiency. Scientists worldwide shared data and discoveries at remarkable speed. Military forces coordinated seamlessly across traditional enemy lines. The first part of Earth's struggle against forced genetic improvement culminated in a dramatic standoff at the Geneva facility. Dr. Patel's team had discovered something extraordinary in their research. Human DNA contained adaptation mechanisms that the Zaxarians had lost centuries ago in their pursuit of genetic perfection. As Part 1 drew to a close, Admiral Sullivan stood before the emergency UN session once again, but this time with purpose rather than uncertainty. "We are not primitive," he declared. "We are not stagnant. We are humanity, and we will prove that natural resilience surpasses artificial perfection." The Zaxarian ships loomed overhead, their presence a constant reminder of the choice humanity faced: accept perfection or trust in the strength that had carried them through countless challenges before. The battle for humanity's genetic future was just beginning, but for the first time, Earth's leaders felt confident they had made the right choice in resisting. Deep in the Geneva facility's advanced genetics lab, Dr. Patel hunched over a holographic display, her eyes reflecting cascading strands of DNA. The discovery her team had made wasn't just groundbreaking. It threatened to upend the entire galactic understanding of genetic science. "Admiral Sullivan," she called, her voice carrying the weight of revelation. "We found something extraordinary in the Australian Aboriginal population's genetic markers." The Admiral strode over, accompanied by Dr. Kenzo Tanaka, their expert in evolutionary biology. The display showed a comparison between standard human DNA, Zaxarian clones, and samples from indigenous populations worldwide. "These populations have developed natural resistance to everything from extreme heat to certain cancers," she explained. "But here's the crucial part. Their DNA continues to adapt in real time." Before they could discuss further, the facility's alarms blared. Above Geneva, 3 more Zaxarian ships had appeared, their hulls gleaming with menacing purpose. Vorthak's image materialized in their command center, his skin now a deep purple of barely contained rage. "We have detected unauthorized genetic research," he announced. "This violates the terms of our protection agreement." His translator couldn't quite mask the tension in his voice. "Our Council of Genetic Preservation demands immediate access to your facility." Admiral Sullivan stepped forward, his posture rigid but calm. "With all due respect, Ambassador Vorthak, Earth never signed any protection agreement. Our research continues under our own authority." The confrontation attracted the attention of other galactic civilizations. The Andromeda Coalition, a loose alliance of species that had previously accepted Zaxarian cloning, sent observers to Earth. Among them was Representative Kull, a being composed of crystalline structures that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. During a crucial presentation to these observers, Dr. Tanaka demonstrated how human cells responded to simulated environmental threats. "Watch," he directed, indicating a real-time display of cellular adaptation. "No cloning required. Our cells naturally evolve countermeasures." The Zaxarians attempted to discredit the findings, but their efforts backfired when Dr. Patel's team made another breakthrough. They discovered that clone-dependent species showed signs of degradation that their perfect engineering couldn't prevent. The natural variants in human DNA, which the Zaxarians considered primitive, actually provided protection against this degradation. The situation escalated when several humans who had volunteered for the initial Zaxarian cloning trials began showing signs of genetic instability. Dr. Patel worked tirelessly with her team to understand why. The answer came from an unexpected source, a young researcher named Ibrahim Hassan, who had been studying ancient human migration patterns. "Look at this," Ibrahim pointed to genetic markers from different human populations. "Our ancestors faced countless near-extinction events. Each time, the survivors passed on strengthened genetic codes. We're not just adapted. We're the product of countless successful adaptations." The Zaxarians' response was swift and aggressive. They released documents showing failed human genetic experiments throughout history, attempting to prove humanity's primitive understanding of genetics. But they hadn't counted on humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn from failure. Admiral Sullivan organized a public demonstration. Under strict observation from galactic representatives, volunteers from different human populations demonstrated their natural adaptations. A Sherpa with enhanced oxygen processing, an Inuit with superior cold resistance, a Bedouin with extraordinary heat tolerance, each showing how humanity had naturally achieved what the Zaxarians required cloning to accomplish. The defining moment came when Representative Cutall requested a deep scan of both human and Zaxarian genetic structures. The results shocked the galactic community. The Zaxarians' perfect clones showed signs of entropy, their genetic code slowly losing complexity with each generation. In contrast, human DNA revealed increasing complexity, natural mutations creating new adaptations even as they were studied. Vorthak made one final attempt to maintain control. "You don't understand the dangers of uncontrolled evolution," he argued before the gathered representatives. "We've seen civilizations destroy themselves through genetic chaos." Dr. Paddle stood to respond, her voice calm but forceful. "Perhaps it's not chaos you fear, but change itself. Our primitive genetics have given us something your cloning took away: the ability to face the unknown and adapt to it." As the second part of the conflict drew to a close, the balance of power had shifted. Several member species of the Andromeda Coalition had requested access to Earth's genetic research, fascinated by the possibility of restoring their own natural adaptive capabilities. The Zaxarians' grip on galactic genetic science was beginning to crumble. In the Geneva facility's observation deck, Admiral Sullivan stood with Dr. Patel and Dr. Tanaka, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Below them, researchers from a dozen alien species worked alongside humans, studying the very adaptability that the Zaxarians had dismissed as primitive. "They wanted to perfect us," Dr. Patel mused, "but they never understood that imperfection, variation, is what makes us perfect for survival." The Zaxarian ships still loomed overhead, but their shadows seemed less threatening now. Humanity hadn't just defended their genetic freedom. They had shown the galaxy a different path forward. The question now was, how many species would be brave enough to follow their example? The revelation came from a small research station in Peru's Sacred Valley. Dr. Isabella Santos, studying genetic markers in high-altitude populations, had discovered something that would change everything. Her hands trembled as she initiated the quantum link to Geneva. "Dr. Patel," she began, her excitement barely contained, "we found a population with active genetic markers previously thought extinct. These people aren't just adapting. They are actively evolving at an accelerated rate." The discovery couldn't have come at a more crucial time. The Zaxarians had begun a new campaign, releasing engineered viruses into Earth's atmosphere, not to harm, they claimed, but to prove humanity's vulnerability. Their demonstration backfired spectacularly. Within weeks, human populations began showing natural resistance. More surprisingly, the resistance patterns varied by region, each population developing unique antibodies. Admiral Sullivan coordinated with the WHO to document every case, building an irrefutable body of evidence. The Andromeda Coalition's scientific vessel, the Crystalline Seeker, arrived to study this phenomenon. Its commander, Kal, had become increasingly skeptical of Zaxarian methods. "In all our centuries of observation," they noted, their crystalline form shimming with interest, "we've never seen such rapid natural adaptation." Dr. Tanaka's team made another breakthrough while studying the Peruvian data. The human genome doesn't just adapt to survive, he explained to a gathered group of alien scientists. It adapts to thrive. Each challenge makes the entire species stronger. The Zaxarians, growing desperate, revealed their ultimate weapon, a complete genetic template they claimed would give humans immunity to all known diseases. The cost: accepting their cloning program and surrendering their natural evolution. Vorthak presented this offer in a global broadcast, his skin rippling with confident patterns. Why struggle through natural selection when perfection is offered freely? His words were smooth, practiced, confident. But humanity had an unexpected ally. A faction of younger Zaxarians, led by scientist Zelra, had been secretly studying human adaptation. They shared disturbing data about their own species' growing vulnerabilities, problems their cloning couldn't fix. Our perfection is our weakness, Zelra admitted in a clandestine meeting with Dr. Patel. We haven't truly evolved in 10,000 years. Each new threat requires new engineering, while your species simply adapts. The situation reached a critical point when a solar flare, far more powerful than any in recorded history, struck Earth's magnetic field. The Zaxarians withdrew their ships to safe distances, expecting catastrophe. Instead, they witnessed something remarkable. Human DNA began responding to the increased radiation, not over generations but within weeks. Dr. Santos' team in Peru documented the first cases, subtle changes in cell structure that provided better radiation resistance. Similar adaptations appeared globally, each population developing slightly different but equally effective protections. The Andromeda Coalition called an emergency session. Representative Kull presented a comprehensive analysis. The Zaxarian path of controlled evolution through cloning has reached its limit. Humanity offers an alternative we cannot ignore. Underground resistance grew within Zaxarian society. More young scientists defected, sharing stories of failed adaptations and growing genetic stagnation in their perfect civilization. Vorthak's authority began to crumble. In Geneva, Dr. Patel made a bold proposal to the gathered galactic representatives. We offer to share our complete genetic database, including our adaptation mechanisms. In return, we ask for recognition of every species' right to natural evolution. Admiral Sullivan supported her proposal with military data showing how genetic diversity had saved human populations throughout history. Uniformity is vulnerability, he argued. Diversity, even imperfect diversity, is strength. The Crystalline Seekers laboratories became a neutral ground where scientists from Earth worked alongside alien researchers, studying the mechanics of natural adaptation. They discovered that human imperfections were actually complex systems of genetic flexibility that the Zaxarians' pursuit of perfection had engineered out of their own species. As Part 3 concluded, Vorthak faced growing dissent within his own ranks. The Zaxarian ships above Earth now hosted quiet meetings between their own genetic scientists and human researchers, sharing knowledge that had been suppressed for millennia. Dr. Patel stood in her lab, examining a holographic display of human DNA alongside Zaxarian genetic code. Perhaps, she mused to Admiral Sullivan, the real victory isn't proving them wrong, but showing them a way back to what they lost. The battle wasn't over, but the momentum had shifted. Humanity's primitive genetics had demonstrated something profound. True strength lies not in achieving perfection, but in maintaining the ability to change, adapt, and grow stronger through challenge. Hidden beneath the Himalayas, in a facility carved into ancient rock, Dr. Patel made the discovery that would reshape galactic civilization. Her team had been studying DNA samples from extremophile bacteria found in deep ice cores when they noticed something extraordinary, a pattern that connected all living things on Earth. It's not just about adaptation, she explained to Admiral Sullivan and the gathered representatives from 20 alien species. Life on Earth follows a principle we're calling adaptive resonance. Each species' evolution influences others, creating a web of continuous improvement. The implications were staggering. While the Zaxarians had pursued isolated perfection, Earth's biosphere demonstrated that true resilience came from interconnected evolution. Even as this revelation spread through the galactic scientific community, the Zaxarians made their most desperate move. A group of hardline traditionalists, led by Vorthak's second-in-command, attempted to release a genetic catalyst designed to force human DNA into their preferred pattern. But they hadn't counted on humanity's new allies. Zelra and her faction of reformed Zaxarian scientists detected the threat and worked with Earth's defense systems to neutralize it. More significantly, the attempted attack provided proof of what Dr. Patel had theorized. The catalyst simply couldn't override humanity's adaptive capabilities. The Andromeda Coalition convened an emergency session aboard the Crystalline Seeker. Representative Cull's form pulsed with unusual intensity as they presented evidence of the Zaxarians' declining genetic stability. Their pursuit of perfection, Catal announced, has led them to an evolutionary dead end. The final confrontation took place not on a battlefield, but in the grand amphitheater of the Galactic Council. Dr. Patel and Admiral Sullivan stood before representatives of over 1,000 species, presenting humanity's case for natural evolution. "We are not here to condemn the Zaxarians' achievements," Dr. Patel began, her voice steady. "But we offer proof that there is another way, a better way forward." The evidence was irrefutable. While cloned populations showed increasing vulnerability to new threats, Earth's naturally evolving species demonstrated remarkable resilience. But the most compelling testimony came from an unexpected source. Vorthak himself stepped forward, his skin showing patterns never before seen in his species, patterns of change. "My people chose perfection over adaptation," he admitted. "We thought we were saving the galaxy. Instead, we nearly condemned it to stagnation." The Council's decision was unanimous. The forced implementation of cloning technology was banned throughout known space. Instead, a new Galactic Institute of Evolutionary Studies would be established on Earth, dedicated to understanding and preserving natural adaptive processes. In the months that followed, something remarkable happened. Using carefully preserved genetic samples and techniques developed by Dr. Santos' team, the Zaxarians began the long process of restoring their species' natural adaptive capabilities. Other civilizations followed, rediscovering genetic diversity they had lost centuries ago. The Geneva facility expanded into a center for galactic cooperation. Researchers from across the universe came to study Earth's biosphere, learning from what they had once dismissed as primitive. Admiral Sullivan oversaw the creation of an interstellar scientific defense force, dedicated to protecting the right of all species to evolve naturally. Dr. Patel stood in her lab one final time, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors that seemed brighter somehow. On her display, a double helix spun slowly, not perfect, not uniform, but beautifully, powerfully adaptive. "We never needed to be perfect," she said to Admiral Sullivan, who had become a close friend through their shared struggle. "We just needed to be ourselves." Above Earth, where Zaxarian ships had once loomed threateningly, a new structure took shape. The Galactic Institute, its architecture combining designs from 1,000 worlds. Inside its halls, scientists of all species worked together, learning from each other and from the endless variations of life itself. Humanity had done more than resist extinction. They had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in achieving perfection, but in embracing the endless possibilities of change. As Dr. Patel liked to say in her lectures to alien students, "In imperfection, we find our perfect adaptability." The story of humanity's stand against forced evolution became legend throughout the galaxy. But perhaps more importantly, it became a beginning. The start of a new era where diversity was celebrated, change was embraced, and the true potential of life could flourish in all its beautiful imperfection. Vorthak, now leading his people down a new path, summed it up best in his address to the first graduating class of the Galactic Institute. "We sought to perfect life, only to discover that life had perfected itself through imperfection. The greatest evolution was in our understanding." And so, as stars wheeled overhead and new challenges arose on distant worlds, life continued its ancient dance of adaptation and change, stronger now for having remembered that the power to evolve was the greatest power of all.